All right, guys, I got you another one today. It's part of a landmark case. Since I was kind of close, I wanted to go ahead and come over here and actually went to the museum, and they were able to shed a little light on the situation that over here in this corner. As you can see, I'm at the old Brownsville Cemetery, kind of near the ghost town that I just went to of Clio. And over here in this corner is a grave that stands by itself. Well, lies by itself. And that is going to be of the grave of Mason Lee. Now, average guy, came into a little bit of money. So Mason came into some money. He came into about $50,000, and something happened when he was 30 years old. He got struck by lightning, and when he was struck by lightning, he had a bit of a premonition. He had signs that somebody really wanted to talk to him. And who was that person? Well, that person was God. God came to him during this lightning strike and told him, you need to live modestly. I know that you've come into a lot of money, but I don't want you to spend it at all. So he gets a small little house kind of close to here, and he lives out his days pretty much in squalor. He uses the same clothing day in, day out. He loses weight, so he just uses a rope to kind of keep his pants up. But no matter what happened throughout the rest of his life, he always went by what God told him to, and that was to live modestly. Questions started to be asked of Mason as his time continued to go on. He made some very interesting choices, and basically people started to question his sanity. He had two sons. He only claimed one that happened to jump over a fence. The other one crawled under it. Well, he would never claim the one that crawled under it. He also thought that he had people living in his teeth. He thought that every woman was a witch. And one of the things that I happened to see at the museum was he thought that he was safe when he would sleep on a log that he hollowed out. I actually got to see and touch the log back at the museum, which was pretty interesting as well. So as you can see, he made a lot of interesting choices. Now, one of the reasons why he made some of these choices was that he had a couple slaves, and he happened to kill one of them. Now, this was, in many people's opinion, maybe why he was struck by lightning and why he lived most of the rest of his life in pretty much squalor and tormented by, the demons living in his head. Well, all of this happens, and when he dies, this is where kind of Act 2 comes into play. When he dies, his two sons, they go into his will, and they notice that, wait a second, Dad didn't leave us any of his fortune. He didn't leave us any of the land that he has in Georgia. He had a little bit of land in North Carolina. He obviously didn't leave us anything here in South Carolina, here in the Brownsville region. He left it all to the states of South Carolina, Tennessee, and North Carolina. So this is where it becomes somewhat of a landmark case. His sons would go on to sue the estate of their father, and when they sue the estate of his father, it comes into question, was he mentally insane? And if you're mentally insane, when you redo your will, which they saw he went in and basically redid his will, why does that count? He obviously did this when he was mentally insane. So it goes to the House of North Carolina, it goes to the House of South Carolina, and would then be basically absorbed into the state of Tennessee as to what is mentally insane, and should that will kind of continue to go on when, you know, they called in a lot of people that knew him. You know, they talked about him, you know, thinking all women were witches. He slept in a log. He made his own clothes and never changed them. He built his own, you know, kind of log cabin when he had plenty of money. You know, the money in the bank was never touched. Obviously, you know, back in 1827, you know, that $50,000 lump sum, and then the property that went along with it is going to be quite a bit. So it had to go to basically the House of the state of South Carolina as to what is considered insane. And his sons won, and it was deemed that he was mentally insane when he wrote that will. Well, it then went into question, how do we prove someone is insane? So this was sort of a landmark case into proving that, you know, is someone able to write out a will if they are deemed to be insane? So in the end, when you hear, or if you ever have to hear the phrase testamentary capacity, that is, if that person has the ability to write a will or not, and they start using phrases like the nature of their ability, it all came from Mason Lee. So interesting case that still lives on today, and it all started with Mason Lee and his two sons. So once again, another odd piece of history. What the oddest part is, you know, definitely the story, but then you have him basically so far away from everybody else in the cemetery. So I'm not sure why he's over there, but neat piece of history that definitely shaped our country. Thank you.